right, Raider Nation, today we're going to be talking about a wide receiver trade that the Raiders could make if we don't get who we want in the draft. The wide receiver selection in this year's draft class is not nearly as good as it was last year. And so you essentially have one premium wide receiver named Tet McMillan, and that's about it. Everybody else after that are up in the air as to whether or not they're going to be really good in the NFL or not. Now, there are good wide receivers that are going to be available in the second and third round. But as far as, wide receivers going in the first round, I think we had 4 or 5 of them last year. I only see maybe 1 or 2 this year. Obviously, Tet McMillan will be a top 10 wide receiver because of his physicality and big play ability. And so the Raiders need a true X receiver. And if T. Higgins stays with the Cincinnati Bengals, the Raiders could go after a couple of other names, or they could make a trade for a guy who has shown some discontent with his current team, and he has that massive big playability. He is such a big playmaker that defenses will have to key in on him. Otherwise, a good quarterback will be able to just chuck the ball 40 yards, 50 yards down the field, and he will come down with it. And we are talking about DK Metcalf. Now, also in this video, we're going to talk about Zamir White and why the Raiders could and should probably cut him. We'll save that for last. But for right now, I do just want to talk about DK Metcalf. Now, he had just shy of 1,000 yards in 2024, and he only had 6 touchdowns. He only had barely over 100 targets. And so I think part of the issue is he just doesn't get targeted enough. He is used as an over-the-top contested catch type of guy, which is also why he only has a 60% reception average. And this is pretty low in the NFL. And definitely much lower than guys like Jamar Chase and others in the high rankings like CeeDee Lamb, where these guys are coming down with the ball 70+% of the time, and they're putting up 1,500 yards, 1,700 yards, 12 touchdowns plus every single season, whereas DK Metcalf simply has not panned out that way. Now, there's a couple of reasons why. One is, the dude kind of gets penalized a lot, and he's a bit of a diva. He's a bit of a hothead, according to some people, gets into some social media issues, and maybe he's just not getting along with his quarterback because of some of the character issues. And so if the Raiders were to bring him here, this would be a Pete Carroll thing, right? So that Pete Carroll knows this guy intimately. He really understands how to get the best out of DK Metcalf. And since he's left, it just really hasn't happened. I think that if the Raiders were to make a trade for him, I do believe Seattle would move off of DK Metcalf. When you have a guy of his physicality, a guy who can run 4.3 at his size, which is phenomenal, and you're not able to put up 15, 16, 1,700 yards and putting up 10 plus touchdowns every single season, maybe you move off from him. And I think that because of the character issues, the penalty issues, and lack of production and connection between him and Geno Smith, it may be that Seattle just says, yeah, we'll move off of him for a 3rd round pick. Now, if you were to do that and give Seattle a 3rd round pick for DK Metcalf, there's a couple of things that will immediately happen. Number one, DK Metcalf becomes your X wide receiver. He has to be. His size and physicality is an absolute must that you have him out on the field as much as possible and that you are targeting him. And number two, this is going to open things up for Brock Bowers because, again, when you've got a dude of his athleticism at the X wide receiver, defenses are going to have to pick their poison. Who do you double team? Because if you try to double team and take away Brock Bowers, you're going to have a dude who's like 6'4" and runs a 4.3 40 and just has incredibly long hands. I mean, he basically dominates over all of these smaller corners in the NFL, and he's going to take the top off. And so you can throw 50-50 balls up to him 40-50 yards down the field. If you're not double teaming him, chances are he's going to come down with those. And those big plays, it is going to stretch a defense thin. And then if you have a top tier running back, now you're going to open up that run game. And because of that, I think that the Raiders should take a shot at DK Metcalf. If you can get him for a third-round draft pick, it is an absolute no-brainer. You go and you get a raw athlete like him on the team, and you make him your ex-wide receiver, and you get Pete Carroll to get the best out of him. Now, if Pete Carroll believes that DK Metcalf is going to be too big of a distraction, DK Metcalf's production is not going to be there, or DK Metcalf is not as good as he potentially could be with his raw athleticism and elite size, then you pass on him and you try and definitely go after a T. Higgins, who is a guy that can definitely get you over 1,000 yards every year as long as he stays healthy. But again, issues with him as that it's been a health issue with him year after year after year. He's yet to complete an entire season playing every single game. And so that's a big concern. Plus, T. Higgins is going to get paid an awful lot of money. Maybe you can get DK Metcalf for a better value, and who knows, maybe DK Metcalf comes to the Raiders and everything turns around for his career and he becomes the Randy Moss that we hoped Randy Moss would be for the Raiders. And unfortunately, we traded him to the Patriots, and then they went 17-0 or 16-0, whatever it was back then. Yeah, so maybe we get that. Maybe we bring DK Metcalf in and that happens. Guys, let me know down in the comments below how you feel about it. Would you like to see DK Metcalf come over for a third-round pick? Because I do honestly believe lack of production plus character issues may be easy to get him over here for a third-round pick. And listen, we got that for from the Jets for Devontae Adams, so it really doesn't even cost us anything to get DK over here. Now, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about Zamir White as we wrap up this video. Zamir White is, if you were to cut Zamir White right now as the Raiders, you're going to save over $1 million and only eat like $180,000 in dead cap. And so if you look at Zamir White, lack of production, lack of being able to get open, and his, fumble issues, and just really not panning out the way that we had hoped he would. One of the biggest issues with Zamir White in 2023 was vision. You would see him hit the wrong hole. You would see him cut the wrong direction and not really be able to process where he needs to get to. Now, in college, this dude was able to be a really good running back, but in the NFL, he is yet to prove that he's able to do this at a higher level. And that's why I think that the Raiders should probably move on from Zamir White, simply because this draft class is absolutely loaded with running backs that you can bring in and simply replace Zamir White with on a cheaper contract and hopefully get a lot more production, especially if the Raiders do what I think that they might do, which is go after Ashton Genty. Then what do you really need Zamir White for? Go ahead and cut him, save that $1 million, eat that $180,000 dead cap, and there you go. The running game is off and running, no pun intended. Guys, if you're brand new to the channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, and also make sure you check out the link below for Vitomon solar power generators. Right now, you can get their Jump 1800 for less than $600 with my promo code down below. You can take it camping, take it out off-wheeling, run your house with it, run your appliances with it in a case of emergency. The South right now, Kentucky, Tennessee, Carolina, like they're all just getting flooded. People are dying. Power is out. You got to have a backup power plan. Vitomon right now, bang for the buck of what you're going to get. 1,500 watt battery, all in one little solar generator for under $600 right now with the link. Go and check them out. Thank you, Vitomon, for being a sponsor of the channel.